and welcome to SureenaSpeaks. And in this episode, I interview the absolutely wonderful Heather Farrell. Heather is so open and honest in this video. She goes through the current role that she's in, how different it is to other roles that she's had, but is also very honest about why being a pharmacist, and in particular being a community pharmacist, wasn't the right path for her, and the steps that she took to end up in a role which she's really happy in now and really fulfilled in. And I really think that with how honest Heather is through this video, you will be inspired into realizing that actually maybe it's worth taking those risks, maybe it's worth going outside of my comfort zone and actually taking on a role which maybe you didn't even realize was a role that you wanted to do or was interested in. She also gives really handy hints on how to find different job roles that are out there too. So I do hope you like this video, and if you do, why not give it a thumbs up, share, like, subscribe. Do also visit my Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. But for now, sit back, relax and listen up. Heather, it's so lovely to see you. It's been so long. How have you?
I'm good. Just busy with work, especially working from home. It's not the most ideal situation, but we're getting through it, and also just dealing with the world, the state of the world at the moment, I suppose. How are you?
Yeah, good. Same as you, really. Just adjusting to this new normal. A little bit sick of that phrase, I'll be honest. But this is the world that we're living in right now, and we're just having to roll with the punches, I guess.
Exactly.
What I would say though is I think me and you are the perfect example of the phrase that pharmacy is a small world, because we both went to the same university, but we were in different years and we didn't know each other at university. And it was years later when we both joined the same company that we then met and suddenly became, oh, you know that person, I know that person, oh, you went on that night out, I went on that night out, you've probably served me at the uni bar before.
Yeah, probably have, yeah. And also as well, what's so weird is when I was doing my pre-reg, loads of people used to watch your videos, so I'd like heard of your name, and then when you came and joined the MPA.
Wait, are you telling me that you didn't watch my videos?
I feel so bad, but I have watched them since.
Thank you.
But when you came to MPA, everyone was like, yeah, Sureena, and just said your name. And then somebody said SureenaSpeaks, and I was like, I messaged my friend, I was like, you'll never guess who's joining my company. And she was just like a big fan girl. I won't say her name, but she loves you. And like, you helped her through pre-reg so much. And then I met you in real life, and it was the biggest claim to fame.
But it is just mad how small a world pharmacy is. Like, everyone knows everyone in one form or another. Everyone knows everyone. It's absolutely mad.
But even when we were training the pre-reggers, I always used to say, like, when we say goodbye to them at the end, it would be like, we'll probably see you in the future at some point.
But I think that's why it's so important that regardless if you're in, you're doing your degree, if you're a pre-reg, if you're newly qualified, if you've been a pharmacist for 30 odd years, it's so important to maintain those contacts and connections, because you just don't know when they'll
come in handy. Yeah.
It's so strange, so strange. Before we go any further, can you please introduce yourself and let us know a bit? I mean, I know a lot about you, but let the viewers know a little bit more about you.
I don't really know what to say, but my name's Heather. I worked with Sureena at the MPA, which I'm sure we'll cover in a bit. But basically, I moved to UK about, what year are we in now? 2020. So about almost 8 years, actually. Oh no, it is 8 years since I started uni. It would have been like August, September time. So I moved over then to do pharmacy at University of Reading. I just came here for uni and I just haven't left since. So done a few different things within pharmacy, which obviously we'll touch on a bit as well. Other than that, just that's who I am. I don't really know what other introduction is needed.
No, that is perfect. So I guess at what point for you was it that you thought, I'm going to be a pharmacist, I want to go into pharmacy? Where did that inspiration come from?
So it definitely wasn't something that I, from a young age was like, that's what I really want to do. I was convinced I was going to be a pop star for very, very time, which
I probably should say at this point, I have tried previously to fill out your application form for X Factor, which you then refused to send in a
I'm in the over 25s category now. I cannot do it. I just can't do it to myself. I would have done it back then. But
I could have been interviewing you as like a singing sensation right now.
you wouldn't. Then I wouldn't have been a pharmacist. So.
Oh, but you know, you could have been singing about pharmacy. You could have had hits #1s about
massive fan base there, definitely. It wasn't like a burning passion, but then I knew about pharmacy, which I suppose maybe a lot of people didn't know that pharmacy was a degree that you could do. I don't think a lot of people knew what pharmacy was, but luckily, I don't know if it was luckily, but my grandparents, well, my grandma's side, there was a few family members within pharmacy, a few of my family are in medicine, that kind of thing, or nursing. So I was always aware of pharmacy as a career. And then when I was at school, my favorite subjects, it's probably going to make me sound a bit of a loser, but they were maths, chemistry, and accounting was another one, but maths and chemistry were like my two favorite ones. And I think from then I just kind of thought, oh, maybe I'll do it. But I had a list of other things I wanted to do. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to do marketing, like all these different things. And then I was really ill when I was like 15. So just before I did the Irish version of GCSEs, which is the junior cert. So it was like a few months before then, I was actually taking trimethoprim. So little teaser for anybody, what if you're a pre-reg, what's trimethoprim used for? But I wasn't taking it for that answer. It was for acne. So I was on that for like a long-term thing, and essentially I actually don't know what it stands for, but I had DRESS syndrome, which is basically a drug reaction, so a big hypersensitivity thing. And I was really, really ill. So I was in hospital for a while, and it was kind of touch and go for a little bit as well. So it was a very traumatic time. But from that, I just found it so interesting that I was taking medication for something else that had caused almost irreversible damage, and then I was given medication to cure it. So I just found the whole thing fascinating, kind of spurred, I suppose, an interest in just how medicine works in the body. So again, it wasn't necessarily about I really want to be a pharmacist, but I just wanted to learn more about just how drugs worked, and how to heal people, that was kind of it really, just to find out more. And then I started applying for UCAS, and in Ireland you don't do like a personal statement, you don't do any of that. So when I was writing my personal statement, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people probably had the same thing, but the more you write your personal statement, the more time you spend on it, the more you kind of are confirmed in what you want to do, the more you get confirmation that actually, this isn't just a load of garbage. I've actually had to work really hard on why I want to do this. I've had to actively think about it so many times to make sure that it's perfect. So that to me was like confirmation that I definitely wanted to do it. And then luckily got my place in Reading, and the rest is history, as they say.
It's so crazy to think though that, say that horrific incident didn't happen, you may have not ended up going into pharmacy, potentially.
I know. Yeah.
It's quite strange the way that sort of domino effect, as I call it, of one incident can then spark to something else and lead you onto this path. It's quite
exactly.
Yeah.
And also I think with pharmacy, even if I wasn't ever a pharmacist, if I didn't ever go into pharmacy, I think I'd always find that aspect of medicine and drugs really interesting, because I had a whole experience so crazy that I was taking one drug that didn't suit my body, because everybody's body's different, and it essentially almost killed me, and then went on to however many steroids and whatever else, and then suddenly was like right as rain a few weeks later. And it's quite an interesting, it's just a really interesting sector to get into, like healthcare in general. But then for me it was more about the drugs, and that's why a lot of people say, well, people choose pharmacy because they wanted to be doctors and they didn't get in. I never wanted to be a doctor. It was never on my radar. It's a totally different degree. It's a totally different specialty. I really wanted to help people. I really wanted to try and make an impact in health, which I'll touch on a bit later because it's why I've made different choices. But that's what I wanted to do. And then for me, it was about the drugs. I wanted to try and find a way to help people get the most out of, the amazing innovation that they've made in all these research things. So that's where the thought stemmed from, and then the career path just came with it. So that's another thing as well, actually, with pharmacy. And with a lot of other degrees like it, it's a vocational degree. So when you leave university, I mean, slightly different for pharmacy because you have to do the pre-reg year, but you essentially leave qualified aside from that year. So you know what you're going to do. Whereas I had a lot of friends that left uni and didn't really know what to do because they had, really good degrees behind them, but that didn't lead to a specific job. It led to kind of an abundance of choice, which can add a lot of stress.
And that can also be quite overwhelming as well, because I think it's two sides to the coin, because having so many options can actually be a beautiful place to be in, but it can also then be a very confusing place to be in as well. And like you said, at least with pharmacy, you kind of know what you're getting into in kind of respect. So let's fast forward university. You then go on to do your pre-reg. So what job roles did you have prior to the one that you're in now? Because I think sometimes it's quite interesting knowing what someone's employment history is before knowing what role that they're currently in, because then it's that whole thing of it kind of one thing leads to another almost. So you could let us know a bit more about that.
So what I found, and just to touch on that, what I found really interesting was whenever I spoke to anyone that was doing pharmacy or had done pharmacy, were pharmacists and XYZ, they always had, like, they'd be like only 4 years older than me, or say, and they'd have like lists and lists of all these different experiences they've had and different places they've worked and all these different things. And I just thought, wow, like there's actually, even though you come out and you know exactly what path you're going to go down, you do the pre-reg, you do the exam, and you go on to, what people think is just community pharmacy, hospital pharmacy, working in a lab and not socializing with anyone, that kind of thing. They had all of these different kind of like, oh, I worked here and then I was a manager here and then, I did 6 months here. And I was like, wow, okay, so actually you can kind of chop and, because I think there's an idea that if you chop and change, that you are showing that you're not committed or you're not willing to stay somewhere. And actually, if you take opportunities as they come, and I'm not saying that everybody should just give up on jobs and move on to the next, but in terms of like, if something's right for you and you feel like it's a good opportunity, give it a go. Like if you're not leaving anywhere in bad terms, if you're not moving on to somewhere and consistently doing it for the same reason because you're not happy in the actual career that you're in, if you're not happy in that, you're never going to be happy in whatever role you take. But if you're trying to get different experience, then actually, as long as you have good intentions for it, then you can't really go too far wrong. So for me, when I started out, I continued on with the company that I did my pre-reg with, purely because I think as a newly qualified pharmacist, I was like, I can't be moving anywhere that I don't know what system they use. I don't know what labels they use. I need to know the staff I'm with. Like and I think it's so underestimated how much stress someone is under when you go from just being kind of like extra labor in the corner, starting random things that actually get double checked by 100 different people afterwards, like, to then being front and center and having to sign off everything and taking that full responsibility. And it just changes one day and that's it. You don't get any kind of like prep.
Is insane. Yeah.
Like you essentially just go from like, and in some places it massively depends on your pre-reg, because some people don't do a thing. So you could have no experience and you pass the exam and that's great. So obviously you do have some knowledge, but if you don't have the actual business acumen or like just the general day-to-day running of a pharmacy, I mean, it's a stressful place to work. So if you're not kind of like, and that's why I'm so grateful my pre-reg was in a really busy pharmacy, so I really learned from that. But yeah, so that first day is so daunting that I just thought I need to be in a place where I know what I'm doing, I know where I am, I know the people, I know the managers, I know kind of like the systems, because I think that's the biggest thing. Obviously you have your general regulations, but every company is going to have different SOPs, they're going to have different ways of doing things.
In the
And
actual systems that they're using and everything.
yeah, so to have to move to that as well, I was like, no, can't be doing that. So I started working as a fully qualified pharmacist for the same company. And I did that for about 6 months, but I knew that was never where I wanted to be. I think after I did my pre-reg, I was kind of solidified in this just isn't for me. You know, I went into it with really great intentions and I thought I'm going to be able to make a difference and, you know, really help people and really get to grips with NHS and the health systems and, you know, like really make impact. And unfortunately, I'm sure there are great people out there doing that, but I didn't have the surroundings to do that in. It wasn't everything I thought it was going to be, essentially.
And the thing is, I think sometimes you need to be brave enough and honest enough with yourself to say, actually, this isn't the path that I thought my life was going to take me, and actually I need to take myself out of this and go and explore into something else which is of more interest.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you know, there were so many different reasons why I decided it wasn't for me, but whatever those reasons were, I was kind of like, well, what do I do now? Like, where do I go? I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I knew, you know, I wanted to still use my knowledge. I wanted to still be somewhere in healthcare, and I wanted to be able to help, you know, whether that's patients or companies or whoever else. But I wanted to do something fulfilling and worthwhile. But then I started looking for different things, and then the job came up for the MPA for learning and development. And bearing in mind that I had been a relief manager, so just going to different stores all the time, I was then going into an office environment, which I'd never been in before, to just sitting down all day, which was a blessing at the beginning, but obviously not ideal towards the end. And it was just a totally different experience. And I kind of knew when I went into it that it wasn't going to be a forever job. It wasn't going to be a long-term thing, but I just wanted to gain that kind of like, not necessarily corporate experience, but the office dynamics, the kind of like structural experience that you don't really get in pharmacy. You know, like you are a lone wolf in the pharmacy, you know, you've got a team, but there's no one on your level. There's no one, you are that one and only pharmacist that day, and there is nobody to turn to for advice. There's nobody to collaborate with. There's no one.
I think it depends. I think because me and you were both reliefs, I think that's why we probably had those kind of experiences. Whereas I guess if you're sort of in the same store all the time, or you're working the same pharmacy all the time, I guess it's probably a slightly different dynamic, because then you've not that I'm saying as a relief you don't have that support, but it's a very different type of support.
Yeah, exactly. I would backtrack on that. It's not that you don't have support. You do have support, but you don't have the collaboration with someone else who is attempting the same task as you.
Yeah.
So I've got all this support from people. Like, the pharmacy teams are incredible, and especially through this year, my God, I can't even imagine what it's been like. But what I found it difficult to be that sole person making decisions, because I just wanted more of a team environment. I wanted, you know, to collaborate with people and just do a bit more. So when I moved to the MPA, obviously we were in a team, with the learning development team, and that for me was such a good kind of path, because we learned so much about, I'm saying we, but I'm just putting you in this with me.
Together.
We were essentially the same person.
Yeah.
So if anyone didn't know, Serena and I were the pre-reg leads, and essentially you just learn so much about, you know, how a business works, different management styles. That was a big eye-opener. Different ways, you know, different stakeholders work. So with the company we were with, obviously the way it's structured is totally different to how maybe another company is structured, and how that then impacts on staffing and employment, that kind of thing, and your day-to-day work and, you know, responsibilities. And because I think our team was growing quite a bit, we got roped into a lot of different projects, and just got a lot of kind of a wide breadth of experience across different kind of collaborative teams and ideas. And it was just a really good learning point to then move on. And I always kind of thought, you know, I would move on because I knew that this was the path I wanted to take. And then
it broke my heart, but never mind.
Wow. And then basically I started looking for different roles. And I think one of the biggest things for people to, if they wanted to move out of, you know, the kind of community hospital labs, there are so many jobs out there, and I think this goes across the spectrum for every sector. Every job will have a different title. It will probably have the same job spec, but it's got all these different abbreviations. It's got, I don't know, like you could be a florist and suddenly you're like a petal analyst, and like,
yeah, it's true.
So many different things. You have to, like, that's what it's like. It's outrageous. Somebody needs to get on this, change LinkedIn, make it one format. But essentially that's what it was. So you really have to be looking at, you know, the keywords of what you are good at, what you enjoy, and what you want to learn. So for me, I knew that I had healthcare experience. I knew I had, you know, good knowledge of drugs, good knowledge of kind of the pharmaceutical market as such, good view of health systems, because obviously we're working under one. So that was where I was coming from. Then I knew that I was good, you know, at speaking myself up here. I knew that I had learned experience, I'll say, in, you know, collaborating and problem solving and all of these different things that I'd learned through any job that I had done. It, like, all of those things apply to so many different
it's having those transferable skills,
exactly. So that was the first thing. Then obviously what you want. So I knew I wanted to be more corporate. I knew I wanted to be a bit more commercial, move into working with, you know, drug companies, and but not necessarily in the labs, which I think is what it's kind of portrayed as. So it's like, oh, if you want to work for Pfizer, you want to work for GSK, well, you're going to be in a lab coat every single day, and you're going to be in a dark lab, and that's the end of it. But actually, they're companies. They're huge international multi-corporations. Like, they're huge. There's so many jobs. Once you get in the door, you can go anywhere. So I think that's one of the biggest myths, I would say, about moving past the usual pharmacy routes. But then I found my job anyway. Back to the long story. I then found my job with the company I'm with now, and I started working as a healthcare analyst. So I was essentially working as, you know, doing a lot of research, finding out about different markets, different market trends for the different specific areas. So I was hired in the cardiovascular, metabolic, and gender health area, but I focus mostly on cardiovascular. So looking at, you know, big landscapes and therapy areas. So say if it was something like angina, and then looking at what drugs are out there now, looking for, you know, the different trends that are happening in that market, finding out the drug sales, and then going out and building reports, massive reports that are essentially like dissertations, and just giving clients an insight into markets that they're potentially trying to get into, or they're trying to value an asset from. So many different ways that they're used in. It's a lot of numbers, a lot of research, and also a lot of just analyzing data to come out with, you know, a solution or a bit of insight that maybe people don't have or they're not aware of. And then just to move on from that, then I was in that for about a year, and then an opportunity came up to move kind of sideways in the same company into the consulting team, and that's essentially what I'm doing now. So it's healthcare consulting, well, pharma consulting really, but it's data consulting, so it's not what people probably assume from like the KPMGs and PwCs of the world. So it's all about data.
You have like a typical day then, or is there
really so different all the time, because projects come in as they come in, clients want things as they want them, so every day is different every day, which is what I love. And every day is a totally new experience and a new learning opportunity. So whatever project I'm on, I'm learning from people that I'm working under, and I'm also learning about the specific therapy area that they want us to cover. So there's just so much learning involved, and it's so interesting. And I find it really interesting, obviously, because I have that background in, you know, the drugs that they're talking about, or the different, I mean, as a pharmacist, you learn so much, not about the drugs, but also about the body and like the different reasons why people take drugs. So all about the different systems and just
this is why I wanted you to come on here and talk about your experiences, because I think there'll be a lot of people watching this who are like me, where they didn't realize a job like yours even exists. And so and it, like you said, it becomes that thing of like, well, I want to go into industry, but what actually is industry? Because industry means multiple different things.
I hate that term, because industry.
Exactly. There's research and development, there's consultancy, what you're doing, there's so many different avenues within industry. And I guess what a lot of people might slightly fear is that if they go into a role which isn't, you know, community or hospital, how can they use the knowledge that they have? And I think what's also really important is that people who may be watching this might not necessarily be pharmacists, but they have an MPharm degree. So it shows that for a role like yours, for example, do you need to be a pharmacist, or is having the MPharm degree sufficient to be in a role like yours?
So you don't need the MPharm to be in my role. I don't think there's any pharmacists on my team. It's something that's definitely been an advantage. It's also been a disadvantage at times as well, because my mind doesn't work in the maybe commercial style, and that's something I'm really actively trying to work with, because it's just not what we've ever been trained for, you know, like it's not about profits, and it's not about all of these things in public health. So when you then move to commercial, your mind is still in that
space.
So that's something that's been a huge learning opportunity for me. But you don't have to be a pharmacist. So that has come as, you know, a positive thing for the most part, but you don't have to be a pharmacist. And I think there are a lot of jobs that you don't need to be a pharmacist, but actually being a pharmacist is really beneficial. And also, what I don't think anybody talks about is, for grad schemes, you just need a degree. You don't need any kind of degree. I mean, I could go into a grad scheme in any drug company probably without a pharmacy degree, without a degree in the drugs that they have just made, you know. You just need a degree. And, you know, I don't really like to have regrets. I don't really like to think, oh, I wish I'd done this, or I wish I'd done that. But I do wish somebody maybe had pointed that out, because I could have, you know, started earlier in the career path that I wanted. And I'm glad I didn't. But I think for other people, it's such an important, just valuable piece of information that nobody talks about. You know, you leave pre-reg, and even just when you leave uni, it's kind of like, well, I have to do my pre-reg now. You don't, if you don't want to. You don't have to be a qualified pharmacist. If you're never going to work, I mean, don't pay those fees. There's no need.
Controversial.
But I do, and I'm still on the register, and I will be, because I'm proud of that achievement. And I'm, you know, if there was ever a day I'm never ruling out pharmacy. There could be a day that I, you know, think I really want to do this today.
You might wake up one morning and think, right, I want to go back into community. I guess what's nice, and I think what I've always appreciated with having an MPharm degree, is that you always can have something to fall back on. So it's like, if you know, if anything ever were to happen, you know, you've got that safety net, which is nice. And I guess especially in a role like yours, even though, like you said, you don't necessarily need to have an MPharm degree, actually, because of the subjects that you're dealing with, such as cardiovascular, because you have that knowledge, you can bring so much more of an insight than someone else who doesn't have an MPharm degree, for example, wouldn't be able to bring. It's that different way of being able to think you can actually use to your advantage in many ways as well.
Exactly. And I think, you know, the degree itself is so valuable in terms of what you learn, So for me, when I came out as a pharmacist, I wasn't hugely enthralled by the job, but I loved the degree. So had my job been exactly what I had learned and what I was building myself up to do, I'd still be a practicing pharmacist to this day. But it wasn't for me, and that's not saying it's not for everyone. You know, there are amazing pharmacists who love what they do, and that's amazing for them. But I just think it's important for people who don't feel fully fulfilled by the pharmacy role, the hospital community, labs.
The ones that you think of when someone says.
Yeah, exactly. That actually there's a huge range of options out there for you. You just need to be looking out for them. And also networking is huge.
Yes.
So just messaging companies and just seeing what they have, giving them your kind of details.
CV.
Yeah, exactly, your CV, and just saying, you know, I've done this, I'm leaving this, I'm looking for new opportunities, and just seeing what they have and seeing if they think that you will fit any role, because they're probably best placed to know. And there's just so many things out there, and I just think people are, because they don't know what to put into the search bar, it stops them from looking. But actually, just put in health and just troll through, and you will find something.
No, it's true, and I think you raise a really good point about, even if you don't know what to put into that search bar, you know, we have websites like LinkedIn, for example, where you can easily connect to other people. On Twitter, there's a whole massive set of pharmacists on there who are usually willing and ready to connect with people, have conversations with them and such likes. And it goes back to what we were saying in the beginning as well about pharmacy being such a small world, and that, you know, you don't know who's doing what role and where right now, and actually reaching out to them. You know, Joe Blogs, who you haven't spoken to since uni, but actually he's in a role that really, something that you're interested in, connect with him, seeing, you know, what happens there. And it's about, I guess, being brave enough to take those risks and admit to yourself that actually I'm not satisfied in what I'm doing right now, and whilst I don't know what it is that I want to do, I know what it isn't that I want to do. And sometimes you need to know what you don't want to do in order to take you to that step to go to where you want to do. Heather, the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, I know you have your blog and your Instagram account, Loose Change, which is about changing the world by how you spend. What is the inspiration behind that? And can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yes, I can. So I know SureenaSpeaks, so it's not anywhere near the platform that you've created.
But it's amazing.
But essentially, because of 2020, I mean, I think everybody can acknowledge that this has been definitely a year for reflection, and a year to just find out, you know, what it is that we're passionate about and what it is that, you know, we want to put out into the world for the rest of our lives. And for me, I just thought, you know, there are so many big companies and there are so many places that I spend my money and that everybody spends their money that don't stand for what I stand for. And there are so many causes out there. There are so many, you know, obstacles in the world and issues in the world that I think all need to be addressed and faced. And for me, I just thought, actually, if I'm saying that I stand for something, I want to embrace that in every aspect of my life. So I want to surround myself with the people that feel the same way. I want to discuss things with people that don't feel the same way. And I also want to buy things from places that respect the things that I'm, you know, passionate about. Or
share the same values as you.
Share the same values, exactly. So, you know, as consumers, we have such power to change the way companies work and to change the way they strategize, because essentially they're going to base their strategies on what we will spend money on. So actually, if we choose not to spend money on certain things because they don't reflect what we want in the world, then actually they will have to come to terms with the fact that that's the way the world is moving, and people want to see, you know, companies coming forward and supporting different causes and helping with climate change and becoming more sustainable, that kind of thing. And I think the way to do that, like, I mean, the power of a pound is incredible. I mean, this whole year has even shown that, just the fact that the economy's crashed just because people don't buy things that they don't need anymore. That's essentially
so true. Yeah.
So actually,
such a brilliant concept.
you. It just came to me, you know, one night. But it was something that I thought about for ages. I was actually really terrified to do anything about it, just because I you know, I feel passionate about things, but I'm not a very vocally opinionated person, unless, you know, I feel a discussion needs to be had. But I'm not kind of like
put yourself out there.
Yeah, I just, you know, I think certain ways and I will live my life to that way, and I will you know, try my best to do the best, but I won't kind of, you know, preach to people. But actually this year I kind of feel like maybe we need to be a bit more vocal about these things and be a bit more vocal about what we stand for, so that, you know, people know they're not alone, but also people know that that doesn't stand anymore, you know, certain behaviors don't stand.
But I guess it's also creating that awareness as well, because like until you created Loose Change, I was kind of oblivious. I was, you know, I'll go into wherever, buy anything, and just mindlessly not really thinking about, where actually is that going to? What is that contributing? Are those the same values as my own? Which, I mean, probably 9 out of 10 times, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I would not have a clue. At least now that you've brought this attention and brought this awareness, it makes you just have that second moment where you think, okay, do I need to get it from there, or actually can I get that same thing from somewhere else that does line up with what I believe in more so, and just changing that pattern of behavior, I guess, and making people think, just be more mindful, I guess, in many ways.
And there's an alternative for everything. If there's anything I've learned from just researching for the blog and writing the blog posts and just posting on Instagram, there are alternatives for every possible thing you could think of. There's so much innovation and so much, you know, it's just great companies doing great things, and actually they never seem to get the spotlight as much as, you know, the big corporations that are putting huge amounts of money into things but are actually causing quite a, you know, large issue.
It's true.
So I just didn't feel like and also for now, I just don't feel good spending money in places that I'm like, is that really lining up with things now? And I think, you know, actually don't need that. I'll find an alternative somewhere else. And there's, you know, on the blogs that I've posted, there's different alternatives for alcohol that are more sustainable, or if they support different causes, or, you know, baked goods, or just, there's literally every possible thing out there. So it's been, to be honest, how I started it was, this wasn't for, you know, to get loads of followers or to get loads of likes or whatever. It was literally, I'm doing the research because I want to know, so I may as well share it, because I'm going to find it out for myself anyway, so I may as well put it out there. And if one person reads it and one person changes, well, then I've made impact somewhere. So that's essentially what it stemmed from. So if anyone wants to check it out, go ahead.
No, exactly. And speaking of which, if anyone does want to find out more, I will include details to both your blog and Instagram account in the description box below, which is somewhere down there. Just scroll a little bit, it'll be there. But Heather, thank you so much. Thank you for how honest you've been throughout this whole interview. All the insights you've provided, the advice you've given as well. No, thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to the moment when we can see each other, and take care.